See the panelists. You're not Judy Rogers, are you?
No, I'm Marilyn Litt.
Okay. Huh. Hi, Marilyn. My name's Annelle. I'm the treasurer and the Zoom person here.
Well, hi,
So
Annelle.
I'm going to rename you.
Please. Yeah, you go right ahead.
And it's Marilyn, L-I-T-T, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Traditional spelling.
Okay.
My lighting okay?
Yes. Very good. All righty.
I'll mute myself.
And Marilyn, I understand, are you going to be sharing your screen?
No, I think you or somebody is going to send that attachment out as a just like a follow-up to the meeting.
Okay.
So we're not going
Okay.
to put it on.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I wouldn't know how to share my screen.
Oh,
I mean, if I looked into it, I could, but I started to, oh yeah, you hit the button, but, and I set it up, but nevertheless, I'm not going to do that. It's
okay.
I'm trying to be like not nervous. So.
Oh, well, it's so much easier on Zoom, I think, than standing in front of a bunch of people. But I'm gonna see if I can bring it up just to see if I can kind of share it from my screen so that people will be able to see what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen. See if what happens.
Okay. The
Okay.
Bob Hall Pier rebuild.
Yeah, I don't have it up for some reason.
Okay.
So let me exit full screen so I can. Yeah, I have it up as a PDF file
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know why. Let me try one more time. There.
Okay.
So I could do that when I get to the part where I'm talking about,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what you can do. So I'm going to stop that.
So far, we've got 7 attendees on with us. That's good. Hello, attendees. And Julie says she's having a connectivity problem. And she's rebooting, so she'll be with us in a moment. Catherine, there's Catherine.
Hi there. Hi, Marilyn. I think I should be able to, I'll be able to share my screen with your card on it, and I can do that when you're taking questions, right after you've finished and you're taking questions.
Okay. Should I ask people do they have questions, or is somebody else going to do that?
I think
we normally ask them to put it in the chat, and then at the end of your session, someone will read them back.
Oh,
Since
okay.
they're all muted.
right.
Okay.
So
Right.
does that sound
Julie's,
okay?
yeah, that sounds good. And then if you'll have until about 12 noon to answer any questions. And then if there are any more at the end, we'll ask for, again, after Mr. Cross has given his presentation, if there are any more questions. So, and what we'll do, like Anel said, we'll have them put their questions in the chat. And then that's also how we, that's part of the announcements that we'll make. I'll make in a few minutes once everybody is on and we get started. We still have, a few minutes. Okay, Julie says she's okay, but she's didn't get in as a panelist. Let me see.
Let me see,
Anel,
I've got her. I've got her.
Let me, yeah.
Okay. That should get her.
Okay.
There she goes.
Good deal.
Okay.
Brava. Well done.
You're muted, Julie.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, well, Anel's been doing Anel, you've done a great job. But when I signed on the screen, it didn't give me a spot for that participant ID.
Huh.
I don't know why. And good morning, Marilyn. It's so nice to see you.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing, to see your face. So
Yeah, we've just been speaking and communicating via email, which is nice also. So I sure am looking forward to today. How's everyone doing?
Doing well.
I'm ready. I like your background. It looks like campaign buttons behind you, Julie.
It's a bunch of different buttons. I used to have them on the interior of my car, on the roof, above me. And that way you could grab one whenever you're going in somewhere.
I don't think cars are like, I don't know what the roof is like when I'm thinking about it. I don't know if you can do that now. It's probably just
I
felt.
don't either. Yeah, it was an older car.
Yes.
And we gave it away, and she was good. She did me well. Now I still got an old car. Catherine hears about everything.
Uh,
This is not the time to buy a car, and we like running them till they're almost dead, and then if we can give them to for charity, that's what we tend to do.
that's good. That's good. Okay. Okay, good. We've got the closed captioning on. Mhm. So we've got 18 people participating. We are just at 11:31. So I know that we have so much to cover today. Do we have, is Mr. Cross on yet? I just want to, or will he come in a little bit?
May I say something? A lot of our
a little bit.
Okay.
a lot of our board members are coming on. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are not a panelist, you are an attendee, and only panelists will be allowed to speak and will be allowed, their face will show on the screen. So I keep getting texts from people asking why they can't see themselves or mute and unmute. So for those of you who are here right now, you are attendees, and only the panelists will be showing up on the screen. Okay?
All right. Thank you, Anel. Wow. Good morning and welcome to this membership meeting of League of Women Voters of Corpus Christi. We are so pleased that you are here with us today. Just briefly, I want to again remind you that our mission is to empower voters and defend democracy. The League of Women Voters, of which we are a part, is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not support or oppose candidates or political parties. So welcome. We appreciate you taking time out of your day, midday, to be with us today. We do have two special guests that we will introduce momentarily. But what I want to do is do a few brief announcements, if you will. One of them is I want to make sure that I don't think I can show it, put it back. I don't have a copy of it. This, that you can't see very well, is our newsletter, The Voter. And we put this out every month, most months. And what this is a compendium of everything that's happening. We keep coming, when we put it out, we keep saying, oh, we're only going to do 8 or 10 pages. Chris Garcia is our wonderful person who is in charge of this, very experienced, but by the end of it, we always have 12 or 14 pages because all of you are doing so much work for the League and because you believe in what we do, the work that we do here. So I want to do a shout out to all of you for being so actively engaged in the work. We've had a lot. I encourage you to read to find out what other members have been doing and where you can plug in so that you are a part of this whirlwind of activity that's happening. So again, make sure you read The Voter. Also want to remind you that the November election, the constitutional amendment election, is coming up. So would you please go online to our Facebook page. We'll have listings of important dates and information there. Also, the voter guide, we have distributed some printed ones around town, as well as reminder bookmarks that have QR codes on them to get election information. So those are good things to check out. The other really cool thing is that League of Women Voters of Texas created some videos about the constitutional amendments, each one, and you can find those on our Facebook group, Corpus Christi League of Women Voters. But very importantly, Raul Ramirez, our chair for voter registration, also contacted KEDT, and those are now being aired on the radio. We provided with them a script, and they are airing those in the afternoon when they have their news points. And so I encourage you, if you're a KEDT member, to say thank you to them, drop them a note, but then also to tell friends that they can find out more about the upcoming constitutional amendments. So it's good to be prepared. Early voting has already started, so we encourage you, as always. Early voting is a great way to avoid the lines on election day. So again, I want to say welcome to all of you, and to remind you that there are so many ways for you to be involved, and glad you're here. So that's it for me, and I'm going to turn this over to Julie Rogers, who is our Vice President for Program Study and Advocacy, to introduce you to today's.
Hello. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to try to expedite this very quickly because we've got two wonderful updates, and it's going to inform our natural resources position statements. President Oler sent them out when she sent out the Zoom information. So I hope you've had time to look at them. If not, look at them after these updates so you know what we need to review and affirm, and please join the Natural Resources Unit. Also, just a quick announcement, local redistricting has started, and we will have a Zoom call on Monday, October 25th from 5:30 to 6:30. We normally meet on second Saturdays, but we're in a fast and furious timeline. They have to have local redistricting done by November 15th. So we'll send out an announcement about that, and let's go forward with natural resources. First, I'd like to introduce Marilyn Knapp Litt. Marilyn is a retired federal civil service employee. She has lived in Texas for almost 20 years and is the director of the nonprofit organization Lost Dogs of Texas. She moved to Padre Island in 2016, and although her passion is helping lost dogs go home, she has taken up the fight against the National Park Service bureaucracy to protect our endangered sea turtle program and our right to access the beach at Padre Island National Seashore. Thank you, Marilyn, for joining us. If you participants, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat, and we will ask Marilyn either right after our talk or after our next guest speaker, who is Scott Cross, because he's also got some other meetings to attend. Thank you all. Marilyn, it's all yours. Let's save those sea turtles.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate the invitation. I wish I were here to say that concerned citizens have made all the difference, and the sea turtle program at Padre Island National Seashore is no longer in danger. In fact, so far we have made very little difference, and the endangered sea turtle program may suffer such a catastrophe that it will never recover. Padre Island National Seashore may also cut off access to driving on the beach. These two things are not just connected, they are intertwined. Make no mistake, concerned citizens are the only thing that will save our sea turtle program, and that's why I'm here today. But so far, the bad guys are winning. I guess questions you might have are, who's doing this? The face of these problems is the new superintendent at Padre Island National Seashore, Eric Bruneman. However, the idea to cut the program did not originate with Eric Bruneman. He was sent here to do this by a regional director of the National Park Service, Mike Reynolds. Reynolds has authority over Padre Island National Seashore, which many of us refer to as PINS. Reynolds selected Bruneman probably because of Bruneman's history of interfering with successful endangered species programs at other national parks, such as the California Condor program at Pinnacles Park and the Black-footed Ferret program at Badlands National Park. Bruneman came with an unenviable record of having had 2 whistleblower complaints made against him, and now he has a third filed by Dr. Shaver at PINS. I'm retired civil service. In most agencies, 1 whistleblower complaint would derail your career. It looks as if Bruneman were sent here on purpose to do what he's doing, which is to dismantle the sea turtle program. So what are they doing? They are cutting funding to the sea turtle program by cutting off grant money. grant money is critical to the program. One of Bruneman's first actions was to turn back National Park Service grants of $300,000, which Dr. Donna Shaver was awarded for her winning presentations to the National Park Service. Shaver was also told she cannot apply for any more grants. This action guts the Turtle Program funding, while at the same time, it allows the National Park Service to say they are not cutting funding. There was a recent television news story announcing this as if it were a victory for the Sea Turtle Program. The program is in the exact same position it was over a year ago when the grant money was taken away. The grant money is essential. To keep announcing that the Park Service is not cutting funds to the Sea Turtle Program is misleading. The Park Service would need to radically increase funding to make up for the missing grant money. This allows the National Park Service to look as if they are protecting the program while they are doing the exact opposite. The other equally heinous action they are taking is bullying Dr. Donna Shaver. She's not yet 65, and supervisors at the park have told her to retire. If a supervisor had told me that, that person would have been suspended. It was not allowed at my agency. The National Park Service is operating above the law here. They have the same rules as all federal agencies. Dr. Shaver's being mistreated, but after a lifetime dedicated to saving sea turtles, it's not so easy to make her quit when she is the only person left who's protecting the program. She's under a gag order and can only speak with permission of the park superintendent. And then she can only say what he permits her to say. And that's why we don't see her on television as much anymore as we used to. She used to basically be the face of the park because the Turtle Program is so important to all of us. So they've taken away her managerial and administrative responsibilities so that non-scientists are part of the decision-making process. You may remember the terrible cold stunning event during the big freeze. Well, what happens with cold stunning is juvenile sea turtles do not seek deep water quickly enough. When sea turtles are overcome with cold, which happens when they are caught in shallow water during a freeze, they become immobile. They can't feed or swim, and the waves toss them about like empty plastic bottles. Either on shore or in the water, they are helpless to predators or hypothermia. The cold stunning event was a triumph for many turtle institutions on the Gulf Coast and was portrayed as such by PINS. The truth is, the administrative chain of command at PINS dithered around, and by the time Dr. Shaver was given permission to act, it was too late. Almost all the turtles they picked up were dead or died soon after. That's what happens when scientists are not in charge of the science. This is just a tiny snapshot of what is going wrong and being kept quiet at Padre Island National Seashore. Without proper funding, the Kemp's Ridley Sea Turtle Program will falter and may never recover. Funds are needed to pay for scientists and techs who come in the summer and take data on the turtles, collect the nests, and incubate the eggs. One of the biggest expenses is UTVs, that Turtle Patrol you may have seen going up and down the beach, and their gasoline. Volunteers drive the vehicles, but the vehicle maintenance is very expensive. If the data is not collected, that will put an end to a turtle study that has gone on for decades. You can't drop a year or two of data and then start up again. But more disastrous would be ending nest relocation. Currently, almost all turtle nests are identified and relocated to a safe area. The turtle nests are found by volunteers and by people driving on the beach. The nests must be moved, or without exception, they will be destroyed either by coastal flooding, which goes all the way to the dunes, and the turtles lay their nest, make their nests at the edge of the dunes, or they'll be destroyed by predators, whether coyotes, possums, or fire ants. That means an entire season's worth of hatchlings would die. So why are they doing this? This is the part which is difficult to explain. I think it largely comes back to money and closing the beach to driving. Dr. Shaver was responsible for gathering and compiling the data, which ensured that BP had to pay a large settlement for the Deepwater Horizon disaster. Although she seems to be responsible for the award being so large, she was not given a decision-making role as to where the settlement money went. Probably as a result, our sea turtle program was largely left out. I think someone wants the sea turtle program diminished, so money that should come here will go elsewhere. I'm told that Dr. Shaver made some powerful enemies years ago by preparing a report where data supported a result that those in charge did not want. And she stood by the science and refused to change the report. I don't know the details, but professional jealousy may also be a factor. She won, she was a candidate for the highest award that the federal government gives to civil service employees this past year. And Eric Bruneman went on record as saying he was very unhappy about that. Highly unusual. Generally, an agency would just be so happy to have out of over 1 million employees, there are 16 selected, and she ultimately did not win because Dr. Fauci won. So I would say she was in good company with stiff competition. Certainly from the regional director on down, no one in the National Park Service is on her side. From the regional director on up, there's no one in charge at the National Park Service. There's been no director of the National Park Service for several years. It's been just not been a priority for this administration or the last administration. The other reason to cut funding for the sea turtle program is to have an excuse to close the beach to driving during turtle nesting season, which is April through July. East Coast turtle scientists do not understand or agree that Texans should drive on the beach. This has been an issue for years. If sea turtle nests are left on the beach, as they're proposing, then the National Park Service could prohibit beach driving using the pretext that cars are a threat to the nests. If anything, beach driving has been helpful to turtles because the public is very good at seeing and reporting nesting turtles. Stopping driving would satisfy those scientists in the National Park Service who want to impose uniform rules on totally different species of turtles. They don't allow driving on the beach, so we shouldn't either. That's the thinking. If driving were prohibited by the National Park Service, it would be a violation of Texas state law, the Open Beaches Act. The state would likely not accept that. There could be a lawsuit and perhaps the land would revert to the state. Now, who's to say that the park will remain 60 miles of undeveloped beach if that happens? We have a finite amount of land on Padre Island. So what can we do? I created an online petition that has almost 31,000 signatures. It has helped alert the public across the country and cause reporters to ask Eric Bruneman questions he refuses to answer. Although he's paid by our tax dollars and he decides how to spend funding that comes from our tax dollars, he has refused interviews, or he asks that he be given the questions in advance, which no journalist will do. So you can find the petition at savepadreturtles.com. I also created a Facebook page, Save the Sea Turtles of Padre Island National Seashore. When PINS announced this past summer they were not having any public hatchling releases, some of us went around to island businesses and asked them to post signs protesting that change. Not one business told me no. This did cause the Park Service to schedule a few public releases, but I would expect to have to fight for this again next year. We need to reach one person, the Secretary of the Interior, Deb Haaland. She's in charge of the National Park Service. She may never even have heard of Padre Island National Seashore, but that's not because I haven't written her. We are one of perhaps 500 parks plus other areas that are part of the National Park Service. And as much as we love our park, it's not in the same league as Yellowstone or Yosemite, at least not in their eyes. So here's the sad thing. I have written politicians from the top of the food chain to the bottom, and only the Nueces County Commissioner's Court has taken any action. They are not letting this go, and they discuss it every time they meet publicly. They have online meetings. So I would like to thank them, and I hope I'll be able to thank more politicians in the future. So this is what you can do. Write the Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland, and ask that the review be withdrawn. All of the changes being made at PINS are contained in a review issued by the superintendent. He's basing all his actions on that review. His authority to do these actions is in that review. We simply need it withdrawn, and that will prevent him from interfering with the turtle program and with driving on the beach. There are currently confirmation hearings to confirm Chuck Sams as the director of the National Park Service. Should that happen, and I hope it will, he should be contacted right away. Maybe I would contact them both, but he would be perhaps even more key. So thank you for allowing me the privilege of speaking to you. I've been a fan of the League of Women Voters for decades, and now I'm your newest member. So
Unmute, Julie, unmute.
Uh-oh, I could be one of those sitcom things. I dropped the Interior Secretary of Interior, Deb Haaland's contact info in the chat, and also a link to your petition. And Marilyn tells me when we sign the petition, periodically, it's a change.org, and they send her updates on numbers, and they also send those to Secretary Haaland as well. So that's very good. It's 11:53, and we have Scott Cross here. He has a meeting, so he's like in between meetings. And I think just to respect his time, if it's okay, Marilyn, can we go ahead and we'll get Scott, and then people could ask questions, all right?
Yeah,
That's
I'm
great.
here, and I can see y'all. Can y'all see me?
We can, although
Okay.
you're mislabeled as Julie Rogers, but if I had to be someone else, I am honored to be Scott Cross.
Okay. So I'm gonna share my screen. Can you allow me to share my screen so I can run through this PowerPoint?
Yeah, let me introduce you real quick. I
Okay.
hope people know who you are. Scott is the director of the Nueces County Coastal Parks, and he grew up in Fort Worth. He served 6 years as a Navy combat corpsman with the Marines. He went to North Carolina State University for 3 years and then 7 years at Texas A&M University. And he has been with Nueces County since 2009. So we are so lucky and honored to have you here, Scott.
Okay. So I'm gonna get started. You tell me when I can share my screen.
It's all yours.
Okay. Let's see here. Hang on a second. I'm trying to. I have got a PowerPoint. Okay, I hit share content. Let me finally. I'm sorry. This is new to me. I don't use Zoom very much. Photos, Dropbox, Microsoft.
You're good. And we
Okay.
have an L here on hand if we need. And
Okay, if I
I'm
hit
in the
screen-
same boat as you.
Scott,
I'm
can
gonna
you
hit-
see at the bottom of the screen, it says share screen?
It just says share content, and then I click screen. I don't have a share screen at the bottom, which is kind of funny because I went through the tutorial yesterday to make sure I could get this done correctly.
You should
So-
just need to scroll down at the bottom of your screen, a little menu will pop up.
Yeah.
And do you see a little green arrow that says share screen?
Okay. Are we there yet? Am
I believe we are, yes.
Okay.
You're
I
starting to
think
come
so.
through.
It's-
Okay, great. Okay, so let me pull up the file. Can y'all see this? Not yet?
Yep.
Yes,
you could?
Yes.
go back.
got
We
it.
could see it. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'll run through this real quickly, ladies. I'm actually at the Ortiz Center. I'm right now meeting with the Corps of Engineers, the General Land Office, and the judge and other stakeholders and elected officials here to discuss the future of our beaches, the future of our dunes, the future of our bays, the future of our shorelines in and around the coastal bend. So it's a pretty big deal. It just happened to be able to get these guys down here today. It just happened to coincide with this. So I'm going to run through here, and although some of the initiatives that you guys have are on a municipal side, remember I'm all county. And so, but most of these things do touch on some of those initiatives. So top of the mind awareness, Bob Hall Pier got hammered by Hurricane Hannah, hired Jacobs Engineering. We've been fighting with FEMA to try to get a federal disaster declaration. We couldn't get it. A lot of people say, well, why couldn't you get it? Because all 32 counties in the state of Texas that were declared under the governor's disaster had to meet a minimum threshold of about 38 million in order for it to open the FEMA Public Assistance Grant Program. Well, the rest of the western counties didn't have enough damages. Nueces County had the bulk of it, along with the port and the marina at the city of Corpus Christi, and we couldn't get there. Now, we appealed it twice to try to make something happen. It didn't happen. And so we didn't win either appeal. So then we decided we'd go out for some certificate of obligation funds in 2021 and dedicate 18 million to rebuilding Bob Hall Pier with some slight changes. So we started that process, working with that. We've got Jacobs Engineering in place. We're working also with Land Engineering, Lockwood Andrews and Newman. We've got 100% demo plan specs done. They're in purchasing. The concrete debris from the pier is going to go out to already permitted TPWD, that's Texas Parks and Wildlife Department, offshore reef that's in state waters to benefit marine fishery habitat. And our permits in place for that. Right now, we're working on design concepts and specs. We've been doing public forums, surveys, stuff like that. We've had over 2,000 people respond to the survey. And it was last week, I think it was last week, it was on a Wednesday. I got informed of a memo that was going out by the GLO that said that they were going to be given or going to request from the state's ARPA funding, not county ARPA funding, $30 billion to rebuild Bob Hall Pier. Well, I kept it under tight lip until I could let the judge know. And I finally got a hold of her down in Mexico at her daughter's wedding. And I'm like, okay, well, we better get in front of this because it's going to get leaked. And sure enough, it did. It got leaked by that Friday before she could get a press release out. But no harm, no foul. That still has to be approved by our legislatures. One of the messaging that the judge has is with that, don't let the legislative or executive branch decide on these projects. Let's let the state agencies recommend what is needed in different regions of the state. That's how you can help us solicit these elected delegates that we want this money and we want to rebuild this pier. So now I'm going to move into some designs. This is what, if we rebuild the pier, this is what it'll look like. Same thing as before, right? Well, now's the time, if we want to build it bigger, better, stronger, now's the time to do it. We don't think the permitting for the rebuild is going to take that much effort because there's been a pier here historically since 1950. There's already been a footprint there. And so we're already in consultation with the Corps of Engineers on this, myself and Jacobs. Now, this is going back, same footprint. Okay, this would be a modified footprint. Okay, now you see these T's. What's significant about these T's is that they're historical to previous hurricanes that have actually come in and hit the pier and destroyed it. One time the pier was only 300, then it was 600, then it was 1,200 feet. It's actually 1,240 feet right now. We have the concessionaires. We own the building. We have the concessionaires, Michael Mays, and it's on the north side of the pier. we're looking at adding another public venue space for people who could come up, not have to pay to go on the pier to fish, but just hang out, do what they want to do. Now, here's a really elaborate design. Okay, now this was all designed and done conceptually working with only 18 million. Okay, so this kind of modifies the tees. It makes the pier basically the pier would end up being 25 foot wide and going down and at the tees at the end, which that width would really make a huge difference for us, for the end user. And remember, we've got to run out on this pier with a John Deere Gator, sometimes with a truck and service lights and trash and everything else. So that would do those two things right there if we did that. And so with this new development, this new money, we're going back to the drawing board, and we're actually looking at, I don't have a slide of this, instead of putting the parking lot back on the beach, moving it behind the dunes and extending the pier up over the dunes and letting the ramp come down into an old RV section that's paved. We redo the parking lot and get the parking lot off the beach. There's a lot of people on the fence on that, but the GLO is really pushing back under the Texas Administrative Code on us rebuilding that parking lot out there. And I will tell you, realistically, to keep the sand off the parking lot every time we have a high tide or anything like that, it is a lot of maintenance. It will reduce a lot of maintenance costs. Okay, we're changing gears here. All right, this is the location of where that reef is going to be that we're going to place on the demo pier material. And so it's about 11.8 nautical miles from the end of Ball Pier, but it's only 8 miles off the coastline if you ran due east and west. So I'm really happy to be partnering with Texas Parks and Wildlife on this project. It's really, really neat. Okay, here we go. So Pack Ridge Channel Nature Park. This is that little park that we have that's in between the Pack Ridge Channel neighborhood. There's a Chris's Fawns facility that's on the left-hand side of the road as you go across the Intercoastal Waterway, or right-hand side as you're going back into town. It's called Pack Ridge Channel Nature Park. We've been working on this park for several years. We got, I think it was, let's see, about $600,000 in grant money that we put in to reestablish what we call neotropical migratory bird habitat. Those are your tanagers, your buntings, those kind of songbirds that migrate through here in the spring and in the fall. We recognized many, many years ago that we were losing a lot of Oakmont habitat. As a matter of fact, there's about a 42-acre section out there right now that's just to the south of the 361 as you go across Pack Ridge Channel going into Port A, that's up for sale. And everybody's like, Scott, buy it, buy it, buy it. Well, I don't have $16 million to go out there and buy it to protect that habitat. And so what we did is we went in here in this park, more landward, we went in and we created public access, and we spent about 2 years studying the different type of units that we wanted to place that were coastal brush type species. In other words, they're called dicots. Monocot would be a corn stalk. Dicot would be a woody stem. So you had shrubs, undershrubs, and taller shrubs to benefit the migratory birds. When these birds come through here, they're needing 3 things: food, water, and cover. And they need the food, water, and cover to build up their fat stores, so that when the front is done and they fall out with the front, they can pick back up and carry on with their migration. So we did a lot of research, studied all that. I'd be happy to share that with any of y'all who know other people who want to kind of recreate this type of project. And it would have great success. Now, the one thing that we do that's different than most anybody that you see, whether it be a municipality or a county when they get grant money, we build funds in so we can monitor what is happening in the environment. What are the birds doing? How are they reacting to each unit? How are the plants reacting? Are we attracting the insects we wanted to? All that. So we monitor that on a regular basis. We do reports, and we've been getting that for several years. So what we did was, this was the last element. I'm losing a lot of shoreline here. Now, it was really bad when they opened up the channel. Then to my right, that's our neighbor, Brian Gully, great guy. Well, him and his folks, they decided to do a sheet pile, which hardened their shoreline. Well, see how it starts exacerbating my erosion on the right-hand side, looking to the left. And then, well, that finally settled. Then just off of where the cul-de-sac is, there's a no wake zone right there. And so what I get is I got people coming off plane and getting on plane with large boat wake that's adding to my erosion. So this was the last element in the entire master plan for this park that we wanted to do. And so we decided, I went to the GLO and I said, GLO, I said, look, you've participated in this project. TPWD has participated in it. Bays and Estuaries program has participated in it quite substantially, and the counties participate in it. I don't have any more money to throw at it. I want to use some of your GOMESA money, Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act monies that come from royalties for OCS, Outer Continental Shelf drilling out there, and I want to fix this problem. So we submitted what's called a Project of Special Merit grant, and we submitted 3 phases. Here's the Cadillac phase, and here's the silver phase, here's the bronze phase. Well, thankfully, they picked up the Cadillac phase, $4 million. And actually, as soon as we're done with our coastal boundary survey that we have to have execute the grant, we'll be able to get this project going immediately. And the thing about this is that it's creating public access because there are a lot of people who love to fish for black drum off the shoreline. At the same time, stopping the erosion and allowing us to rebuild the marsh behind those breakwaters so we can recapture some of the land that got eroded. Okay, observation deck in Bob Hall Pier, at Horace Caldwell Pier. This is a really interesting project to separate the nexus that we had with the observation deck at Bob Hall. You might have seen some stuff in the media. Most of what they were reporting was not correct. The Fish and Wildlife, we had a grant. They didn't like the fact that we had some commercial utilization of the space mixed with public use of the space. We could have gotten rid of the commercial, but we didn't. If we'd have gotten rid of that, we wouldn't have to pay anything back. Myself and Judge Canales and Tyler Little, who just retired, we went to DC and sat down with these folks at U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and we worked out a compromise, but our compromise took it even a step further. So we got $250,000 to build this structure from the port, and then we got the Commissioner Chesney and the judge made up the difference. Now, I'm going to go through a couple slides here. This facility, as you can see from the pier, from the water side, it was raining that day, is going to be totally dedicated to educational outreach. Here's another view from inside. Really nice space, really good opportunity. And there's just another look at it right there. So we are working with all the agencies, the university, anybody who does educational outreach in a organized capacity. I don't do that. I'm not good at that. Ida, our county librarian, has been exceptional about helping me along the way about, okay, what kind of bells and whistles do we want in here? You know, that educators, when they come, they've got their own little box of tricks, but what else do they need to support that effort in there? Ida's gone so far as to develop a monthly curriculum that she can teach out there on an annual basis. We're working with the Port Aransas Historical Association to be able to display in here how the jetties were built. The World War II gun turret mounts that are on our county park, Abbey McGee up there. And then Megan Jones, who's my natural resource manager, is working on permits that we have to have in order to display, you know, like turtle shells for threatened and endangered species. We're looking at an articulated dolphin skeleton that we can hang from the roof, you know, those kind of things. So in other words, when we're done with construction, which will be at the end of December, this will function as a mini Museum of Science and Natural History, and we will man it and operate it only certain times of the day because we're going to have too much nice stuff in here just to let the public go through there all on their own. So it'll be monitored, and you'll have an interpreter, an ombudsman kind of a thing in there. And I'm working with Ida at the library to staff that. That's another thing. There's another couple pictures there. Okay, this is really neat. I know this is up in the Port Aransas area, but this is at the back of Abbey McGee. Now, that footprint at the bottom of Abbey McGee, the RV park, doesn't look anything like that anymore. We recovered that after Harvey. This is where we got really hit bad by Harvey up there. So this is using some of my GOMESA monies, not the state, but the money I get as a county, Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act monies. And so there's a wetland pond back there that got silted in after Harvey, and it had some impacts from 15-16 floods. And so we want to fix the pond. And I wanted to take it a step further. I now wanted to create riparian habitat. That's that upper story habitat around a wetland, again, for these neo-migratory tropical birds. Fix the outfall that runs to the jetty and build public access, okay? Well, that's phase 1. And this is where you see phase 2 incorporated in, right? Well, here's the beauty. We got the money to do both phases at once. And now we're gonna have these little yellow things. Those are like little viewing kiosks. We're gonna have cultural and historical and environmental displays, you know, out here. And there's you can see the circle up there by where it hits the road. That's where one of those gun mounts is. And a lot of people don't know that story from World War II. They were there to protect German U-boats from coming in the ship channel. But now we've got a way to stripe. The city's going to work with it to stripe a crosswalk. Now we got complete connectivity with UTMSI and their educational outreach program. They can do their thing in their little wetland thing, come through here, come to the park, go up to the observation deck. Really, really neat deal. And this will be open to the general public. All right. Now, one of the things that y'all asked me about early on, okay, what's happened to our beaches? Well, Hannah really kicked their rear ends. And so, and it's really odd because in Texas, we typically don't have engineered beaches. The only engineered beach we've had historically has been when they dredged Packery Channel and put it in front of the seawall. And so, but Nueces County has not typically had engineered beaches. And so what Hannah did basically took our beach profiles and our toe of our dunes and took us back all the way to where our survey data to where we're at 1996. That is no kidding. I'll show that to you here in a minute. And so hence one of the reasons I'm up here today is to get started with a program with the Corps of Engineers to look at future immediate needs with dredge placement material that's good quality beach sand, as well as long-term planning so we maintain a resilient coastline. Okay, so here are the goals of what we did with Comrade Blucher Institute. Wanted to document the Hurricane Hannah impacts, establish a baseline for future assessments because we needed it because we didn't have it everywhere. We did the entire coastline from the jetty in Port Aransas all the way down to Penns because many of you know we got 4,000 acres of property we bought from the GLO down in Clayburgh County. That falls under my management. And to support ongoing coastal projects that we have here, like Packery Channel, Padre, Clayburgh sediment, and that thing. And then we have a place that is a website where you can go and you can go through the layers and look at all this data that we collected. It's available for the public to see. So I did a dumbed down version of this presentation that Deidre Williams put together. When I say dumbed down, condensed is what I mean, because it was really long and it got into a lot of technical stuff in survey science that I don't even understand. I show you this slide because it really shows you the different jurisdictions. You see how we're all we're hopscotching around each other. I wished it wasn't that way. When I came on board in 2009, I attempted outside of the city of Port Aransas because they have their own jurisdiction. I attempted to try to fix that and I ruffled a lot of feathers, so I backed off because it didn't make any sense to keep jumping over each other. It's not an efficient way to run government. But anyhow, so that was that. Now, if you look at this, these are different sales that influence our beach. Okay. So the sale number 3, it's controlled by the South Jetty and Port Aransas and the North Fish Pass Jetty. Sale number 2 is controlled by the South Fish Pass Jetty and North Packery Jetty. And then Packery Jetty South controls everything in cell number 1, which runs all the way down to Penns, Padre Island National Seashore. So this shows you the dominant sediment transportation. I think this one's in the winter. That changes in the summer. That flow goes the opposite direction. Now, this is really important. So you think, okay, well, what did Hannah do to our beaches and stuff last year? Well, it just wasn't Hannah. Look at this line that says MHW. It's called mean high water line, where the 0 is, okay? Now, you look at the water levels for Hannah, Laura, Sally, Beta, and Delta, and you take basically from Hannah, which was in July, I think July 25th, somewhere like that. And you look and see how long that water was high above the mean high water line. Above the mean high water line. I'm not talking mean tide. I'm talking mean high water line for all those months, just eating away at our beach, changing the profile, eating away at our dunes. It just was consistent. I've never seen anything like that before since I've been here. But, so the county spent, I think it was around just under $300,000, with some 19 CO monies to go with Comrade Blucher Institute and go out there and collect all this data to bridge some of these data gaps and get baseline material to see, okay, what's really going on with our coastline? Because we need to have a resilient coastline. The profile of your beach, that slope from greater to lesser, that's really your first defense in storm surge. It slows the water down as it gets to the dune. And so, and it's such a dynamic environment. You need to stay on top of it. State typically requires you to do it once every 5 years or post a meteorological event. I don't think that's good enough. I want to do more, but I understand we have cost constraints and we do what we can, but it's always changing. So it's good to stay on top of that. Now, for most of you who don't understand how the beach system works, I thought these were pretty good slides to show you. Okay, Barry Allen key features. Okay, there's your dune. There's your dune toe. That's basically where the line of vegetation is that you hear me talk about. This is your berm. This is what you drive, and this is what you walk on. This is what you park on. This is your berm crest where it transitions into the water. This is our near shore. These are where your sandbars are, first, second, third sandbar. And this is depth of closure. Once you get to depth of closure, then you're not having any more influence from the near shore sediment transportation up onto the dune or up onto the berm, then onto the dune. Here's another good look at it. Okay, you've got all those benchmarks there. These are the lines that we work in. 1,000-foot dune protection line, mean high water line. Some of your talking points were about making sure we protect our dunes, we protect our beaches. These are very heavily monitored and permitted by Nueces County. Nueces County is the one who holds the dune permitting authority, not the city of Corpus Christi. It's Nueces County. A lot of people get that confused. That's a line of vegetation. So essentially, we measure 1,000 foot from the mean high tide line, and then from the line of vegetation outward towards the water, that's all considered open beaches. You may own the property behind it, and your deed may say you own out to the mean high water line, but under the Open Beaches Act, you can't block it off. The public has access on the berm there all the way up to the line of vegetation. Now, this is really critical one, 350 foot building setback. That 350 right there says, okay, if you're going to build out here on the island, all right, anything between the 350 and the 1,000 foot, we've got a vet, we've got a permit, and we got to make sure that you do anything, any disturbance you have, you mitigate for. But if you have room to set back and you're not going to build inside the 350, we're going to make you move out of there. There is times when some of these developments out there, you know, you may have the property at the very end of the cul-de-sac, the most eastward end of the property. Well, all of a sudden the Hannah comes through. What's it do? It eats up the dune. Now the line of vegetation has moved 50 feet back. What's that do to the 350? It moves it back over here to the west. So, but you're on a cul-de-sac. Your roads are in, your infrastructure's in. We may have to give you an exemption because you don't have the availability setback. You got a road you'd have to put your house in, and at that point you got to work with them because you don't want it to seem like it's a taking, you know, eminent domain kind of thing. And so this gives you an idea of the extensive amount of survey work we did up and down this beach, just because all the way to Pins. We did transects of surveys. We were looking at where the erosion is, where it's berm, no dune present, berm only, dune only, berm and dune. You know, what kind of erosion were we getting up and down as a result of the storm season in 2020? Now you'll notice up here in Port Aransas, next to that jetty, that is typically an accreting beach. And I show you part of this because it's still part of Nueces County, even though it's a city of Port Aransas. Now here's an example of what happens. Okay, you have your event, you get erosion. See where it's taking it from the berm to the deposition area or the near shore area. Okay, sand enters near shore. This is how this works. All right, it gets out there, and if it goes out past the depth of the closure, then we're not going to see any benefit from it. Okay, then you come over here. This happens in days. Now, where are you going to recover? Okay, this is the action that comes from the near shore, gets placed on the berm, then it ends up on the dune as wind transports it. Okay, this takes years. This whole cycle to the left, based on studies we've done after Ike and Hannah and previous storms, this whole process in a perfect world could take up to 11 years to complete itself. So we need a little help. Mother Nature needs a little help. And so that's what we're going to try to do, is get her a little help. This is my last slide here. Look at the black line, baseline pre-Packery. That's before Packery Channel was opened up. Okay. Look at your mean high water line. And look at where the black is right there. This is 1996. Now compared to the fuchsia 2020 post-storm, we're almost all the way back to 1996. So see, if you follow that line, that dotted line all the way across there, you can see what a change has happened with 2020 versus like 2012 or 2019. That's the toe. You know, and basically, if you're dune, look how far it's back now. Look where it was in green. Look where it was in that beige. You know, look where it was in black. So we typically, if you were driving down the beach around Mustang Towers, you lost probably 25 foot of dune there. And after you get down to Padre Bayou Park next to Bob Hall, you're up to 45 or 50 foot. Now the dunes are healing nicely, are starting to. They're starting to come back. I'm trying to encourage people, just let them go on their natural course. But it is drastically shaped, reduced. Our shoreline changes have been pretty significant. And so I'm like, well, you don't want to go out there, and you can. There are rules you have to follow. You can build back the dune, but if you don't build back your shoreline, now your beach is even more narrow. And so, we're looking at all that. I was able to get some funding to continue on with this research again this coming year. And so I think between what we've done, what we're doing, and just the meeting I'm up here for and what we're trying to put in place, I think, you guys, as far as your coastline and resiliency of your coastline, you can feel very comfortable. It's in good hands, and we're really looking at, building it, making it even more resilient. But not only for now, but for all unknown events in the future. We got to have these mechanisms in place that way when something happens, we can react. So that is the end of my presentation. How do I get out of screen sharing? Okay, I'm done, I think.
Okay, I think you're still.
Okay. Stop video. How about that? Nope, that's me.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. There it is, right there.
Okay.
Yay!
Yay. Thank you
did
so much.
well. Wow, that was great. And Catherine's going to facilitate the question and answers.
All right. If you have questions, you can put them either in the Q&A or the chat. We already have one in the Q&A, and this is a question. Does the Padre Island National Seashore have any Texas legislative supporters? So either you, Scott, or Marilyn, could you answer that question?
You're talking about legislatures that support the seashore?
Texas legislative supporters, our elected officials.
Yeah. I don't know. I do know we've taken this item seriously over here at the county, and I've been involved with this going back several years, knowing that this was coming. But I tried to stay out of the personal conflict side of it and stay on the program side of it, because I thought that was important. Let's deal with the program. Don't drag me into the personal conflict issue part of it. And so I know that Hunter's aware of what's going on down there. And I know that Cornyn's office has been reached out to, along with McLeod's, but I don't know what they're doing. And the lady who was presenting it, she's exactly right. That's exactly what's happening down there. And I get that straight from my agency partners.
Okay. Marilyn, do you have any comments on that about?
Well, like I said, the Nueces County Commissioners Court is on it, and that's it, because I've written a lot of people and haven't really gotten a response, or maybe they say that they're aware of it or they're doing something. No, there's nothing concrete from anyone other than the Nueces County Commissioners Court, which they've had presentations, I think their last two public meetings, and then they invited Eric Bruneman and Dr. Shaver, I believe, to talk next month. But I mean, she's not allowed to, and he won't. So I don't know what's going on with that.
Okay.
There is a delegate leaving from Corpus Christi on Sunday to go to DC. If y'all know of anybody that's going on that trip, my wife works at the Corpus Chamber, Jenny Cross down there. She's taking a bunch of people up there. I mean, if y'all got something you want me to hand to her that she can get in a Department of Interior office, I'd be happy to do it.
Wow, that's very generous. Thank you, Scott.
That's great. I want to remind everyone too that or affirm that the Nueces County Commissioners Court has been very supportive. One of our members, Teresa Klein, went and spoke on her own and asked them to pass a resolution. And so they've actually passed a resolution in support of the turtle program as well. And it hasn't happened at the city level yet, but if people were interested in getting into the Natural Resources Unit, that might be something y'all could take on.
Exactly, Judy. Julie, excuse me. I do have a question for Scott. I think when we first met down, we were all three of us were at the county courthouse. One of the difficulties that you said that you were having was getting enough sand. Could you talk a little bit about that?
So yeah, so what we did is we submitted a letter of intent with the Corps of Engineers, and the letter of intent says, okay, basically, we need to look at this. We need to figure out where our sand is, and we need to, let you know that we're going to cost share this with you, Corps of Engineers, because under that program, it's a 50-50 match. And so the judge executed that. We were just talking about that earlier. And so we don't feel that there is enough beach quality sand that's going to come out of the Aransas Ship Channel with that project. And plus, it's not going to be cost effective to bring that much sand that we need 18, 20 miles down the beach. It's just not realistic. And so there's not enough in Pack Creek Channel to take care of our needs. So we think more than likely the study is going to show, just like it is off of Jefferson County and Galveston County, it's going to come from directly offshore, which would probably be anywhere from 10 to 12 miles. And that's a lot more cost effective. But once we find the sand and figure out where it's coming from, then we start getting into the programs and the cost sharing with the federal government on, what is our match. Sometimes they could be 65-35, 60-40, it just depends. But so then we start getting into the nuts and bolts of, where we need to get the sand for renourishing. Does that help? Did that answer?
That helps. And that, I think Julie and I were both astounded. We tend to think of sand as a plentiful resource, and knowing that there are different types of sand and for different needs and different areas. So that was a little bit eye-opening to both of us. So I appreciate you addressing that. Anel, do you have a question? I see that you have your hand raised. Okay, well, let me come back. There's another question for you, Scott. What size is your staff in your office? How many?
A full-time employees, we call them FTEs. We're right at about 24, 25. Then we do hire seasonal, although they're called temps. I can't call them seasonal. It's because of the Affordable Care Act and the employer mandate under the Affordable Care Act. And so I know they took the individual mandate away, but the employer mandate is still there. So, I've gotten approval through the court. I'm the only one that allows me to work them at 40 hours a week or better. That's 50% effort or greater, but I can't do it for no more than 4.5 months, or they become benefit eligible. So that does help us because, many of you may not know this. When we ran the pier, we had a lot of seasonal staff. That pier runs 24/7 in the summertime. But you'd be happy to know that we initially invested $68,000 when we took over that pier, and us running the pier, not the restaurant bar area, but us running the pier, it has paid for itself and netted revenues to offset my operating account every year. There's not been another dime of general fund monies go into that pier operation once we started it.
Okay. Good question. I think, and then do you know what the budget for your department's budget for this fiscal year was?
It's right about 2.8. Right, it hovers around there. It hovers. It's hovered between 2.3 and 2.8. And the reason why that is that because when I lost the pier, I lost $900,000 to $1 million in gross revenue that comes into my department. What happens, the way we do our budget, ours is very different than the other department. Before Hurricane Harvey, we were offsetting 67% of our operating costs through the sale of goods and services. Harvey hit, it hit me really bad, took down 50% of my operations. I had to increase my dependency on the general fund. I got Padre Bayou expansion done. That eased some of that pain. I got I.B. McGee RV Park done, open back up. That's really helped, but then to take 2 steps back again because of the pier. So it'll fluctuate. My goal is between 2022 and 2023 is to try to get up to about 80%, 83% self-funding. They want me at 100, but I feel like if they don't have 10% skin in the game, they've got no reason to listen to me cry when I need help.
I understand. Thank you. Another question is that one of our listeners said several years ago, the beach on North Beach had to be replaced due to the wrong kind of sand. And what efforts are being taken to avoid that same problem? How do you?
We did. That's what the sand study does. It's got to be according to regulated by the Corps and the Texas General Land Office. That sand has to be of the same like, type, and quality as what occurs there naturally. So that's why we got to do the study to get so we see where we can find that. And I heard about that. I don't know how somebody messed that up.
Okay, thank you. Marilyn, you had a question. Do you want to ask that question?
Well, I was going to say first that I thought moving the parking lot was a good idea because cars used to flood there during high tide. And my neighbor's car was actually ruined when he was parked there to go to Michael Mays. And I started parking on the far side of that parking lot. But what I'm wondering is, I hear people talking about maybe Michael Mays could open up earlier before the completion of the project. And people are talking about that. So I'm wondering, is that possible?
Yeah, if what we would do is we'd start with that ramp section back in the old RV park, and we'd build out to where the restaurant bar area would live, and that could get opened up while we're still building the rest of the pier. You just have to listen to a bunch of banging, like driving the piles and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it'd be a way to start celebrating small successes.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Another question for you, Scott. What is the impact of driving on the beach?
There really is not. There's been a bunch of studies that have been done, even with our beach maintenance. Kim Withers over at the Center for Coastal Studies, I think she's still over there. I haven't talked with them in a while. That's over at A&M Corpus. They had done some research on that. There's some research that came out of Galveston by some grad students that showed that, as far as impacts to what you call benthic organisms, those are the no-see-ums, the things that support the food eco-web system on the beach, that any type of activity that we currently do on our well-managed beaches doesn't have an impact of lasting biologically more than, I think the longest they said is 10 days. And so, the main thing is maintaining a correct profile, sloping greater to lesser. I know I hear a lot of people complain about Port A because their drive lane seems to be lower than the beach because they got those bollards there, on the side there for the protected areas, and it fills with water. And I've seen that happen on North Packery before. But I think, if you can maintain the correct profile, I don't see that there's much of any impact. And it's driving on Texas beaches is never going to go away. They attempted it once, I think, in the 50s, and it didn't work well.
Okay, good to know. I think this may be somewhat related. We have a question. Do we currently have any dredging operations offshore?
No, the only one they had recently was the Corps, where they were dredging out in front of the ferries, where the Lydian, the Aransas Pass, and the Corpus Ship Channel come together there in Port A, kind of the entrance there, and they placed that right offshore in an offshore placement location. They were just talking about that today, the quantity up there. They said it's good beach quality, and I don't know that anybody's spoken for it, but again, I don't know how cost effective it would be to get down to where we're at.
So do you have any long-term plans for the impact of climate change?
Well, that's the thing why making decisions to move a parking lot behind the dune line, looking at your future expansion, moving things more westward, getting outside that 1,000-foot setback line I showed you. Because, if you look, we have the strongest dune protection standards anywhere on the Texas coast. It's funny. I've spent a lot of time traveling and visiting my other coastal partners in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, just down to about the Panhandle or Panama Beach. I've not gone further south than that on the Gulf side, but whether it's Rita, whether it's Katrina, whatever, down in Biloxi, they're going right back where they were before. They're just as vulnerable as they were before those storms. And you look at the size of our dunes. I know many of people have seen them. You got 30, 40-foot dunes. Some of them are freaking almost 100-foot wide. We have a very healthy dune protection program, which I think that is one of our reasons for long-term planning for climate change, sea level rise. And we're starting to see a lot more inundation frequencies, what I call nuisance flooding. One of the big pushes that I'm trying to get now, and I don't know where to go with it, is that I would like to see us build some kind of research facility on Bob Hall Pier that all the universities could use to further coastal studies. You're not going to believe this when I tell you this. There is not a single research facility in the Gulf of Mexico in any of our Gulf states. There's one on Duck, North Carolina, Outer Banks. There's one on the West Coast. There's not a single one in the Gulf of Mexico. And so I got a letter from Conrad Bluchert Institute, and I sent it to the judge yesterday. I said, hey, why don't we pioneer the first one? You know, give these universities an opportunity to further their research out there over the ocean, configure the pier to where it can be done, you know?
That's awesome, Scott. As you know, the purpose for having both of you speak today is that we're reviewing our position statements and or updating them, you know, seeing if they are still valid, if there are updates we need to make. And just what you've said is very encouraging and something that could possibly, you know, fit in with what we're doing with those position statements so that we can do advocacy on these issues. So thank you both. This is just really interesting. There's another one. Are there frequent requests for exemption from sand dune protections in order to build?
Not frequently. We get them sometimes, and it's because they could not set back because there's been a change in the LOV and it's already applauded, developed with infrastructure road. But if there's nothing behind them, we make them set back, you know. But I will tell you this, as far as permit requests in general, holy cow, they are through the roof right now on the island. And you know, regardless of supply chain issues and inflation, we're getting inundated with dune permit application requests right now.
I think we saw that at the Commissioners Court meeting that we were just at, that there was one for a chapel structure and walkover on State Highway 361.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we stuck around to hear the conversation for that, but that really certainly caught our eye, knowing that you were coming to speak with us today. Are there any other questions? I think we've gone through our questions here in the chat. I want to make sure everyone's had a chance to chime in. Okay, well, Marilyn.
Yes.
Remind us once again what we can do to, what we would need to say in terms of relooking at our position statement on this. Anything that you would add to that or suggest that we follow up on?
When I looked at the position statement, it didn't directly address the national park. I think sometimes people just say, oh, well, that's federal, we can't do anything. So I think it would be good if you just acknowledged in that position statement that you have federal partners on the island that you want to work with and, you know, keep an eye on, because who would have thought that the National Park Service would want to come in and destroy their own endangered species program? It's just incredible. So seems you have to watch everybody.
Thank you, Marilyn. Scott, and you, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at our position statements, but
yes.
Anything that you would add to that or, you know, suggest to us that we could follow up on?
Short term, look at, you know, letters, soliciting letters of support or letters of commitment for the state's ARPA funding for the pier, that 30 million. And in those letters of support, encourage the executive and legislative branch to let those state agencies representing us make the project decisions. That'd be short term. Long term, I think we need to look at working with the Corps of Engineers to identify sand sources to address storm surge or storm impacts to maintain a resilient coastal infrastructure.
All right. We have one more question here. I think this is directed more to the League. And it says, is the League of Women Voters planning to write a position statement about desalination and its potential impact on our bay environment and community? I guess both of you, are there any things that you would add to a desalination conversation? Marilyn, Scott?
Not, I wouldn't, because I don't, you know, I mean, I've heard the pros and cons, but it's like anything else, trust but verify. And so I've not been able to get in and really read more about it. And because at one point I thought the port was going to do one on Harbor Island. That seems to have gone away. I haven't been following that. I don't know, you know, honestly, some of the bickering that would go on between, the community of Port Aransas and the port, they would try to get me sucked into it all the time. I'm like, I'm county. I don't have anything to do with that. So I really not kept up with it that much. I'd have to really, in order to provide my input, I'd have to do some more research. I mean, it does
Okay.
have good benefits. It does have some significant environmental impacts as well.
Thank you, Scott. Marilyn?
Well, I would say that the thing that's worrying to me is that when you do start disrupting the creatures that are under the water there, you don't know where it's going to lead. So I would think that if you're going to, there's a lot of people there that are very upset about it, and I think they've done their research. So
Mhm.
that's my concern.
Okay, all right. Thank you both. Well, I see no more questions in the offing, and we are finished a little ahead of schedule, but I think that's okay. Both of you have indicated, you in particular, Scott, that you have taken time out of a meeting that you were supposed to be in. So we appreciate so much both of you coming on. We have contact information in the chat about how to get in touch with both of you. Also, we will have this. I will be doing sending out additional information as a member blast. I know sometimes it's a little difficult to keep track of all the conversations and the questions. This also, this has been recorded, and this is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go back and view that, please avail yourself of that opportunity. And then we just want to say thank you both so much for taking the time. We know you're both busy, so and doing, working on your responsibilities and your cause. And so we appreciate the time that you have put in preparing to come and speak with all of us. And this, I think, will help us substantially in how we look at that position statement, those position statements impacted by what you both said today. And that will help us know where we need to focus our advocacy efforts. So thank you very much. Thank all of you who attended this. And please, if you still have questions, go ahead and email those to me. And when I reach out to Scott and Marilyn again, I can make sure that your questions are answered. Other than that, we thank you. Remember, if you're not ready, go early vote. Don't wait till the last minute. It's already up there. Voting is what we're all about. Make sure that you check out our voter resources that are online. And please let us know, and also give us feedback about your voting experience this year. We would appreciate that. So let me see, make sure I've got no more questions. I think we're done. Again,
Okay, I'm going to run.
Thank you, Scott. We appreciate your time.
Thank
Marilyn,
you.
we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right. All of you who are still here, again, thank you for your participation. Thank you for taking part in this discussion. We appreciate your answers, your questions, and we are going to continue to have programs. Julie, I will turn this over to you right now to explain what our next membership meetings will be.
All right. Let's see. I'm not muted, am I? No. Okay. We're trying to get updates that correlate to our local position statements that are under review. So I have reached out to the Park Service, Maryland. You and I had talked about it. And at one point they said they would come speak to us, but now they've kind of stopped communicating. So we'll see what happens. That seems to kind of be the trend, but we do try. And most of you know that the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan, and we try to not be biased and operate only on facts and get both sides of the issue. So that's why we're trying to reach out to them. And we do that especially with our position statements. So I just want to remind people that position statements are reached through our studies, and members can present ideas on studies that could lead to position statements at our annual meetings that takes place in May. So that's just opportunities for you all to be aware of. Our next speaker we have for November, we have one local position. It's about the Bayfront Master Development Plan, which is no longer exists. but we do have a downtown management district. And so Elisa Barrera Mason is going to speak to us about their new 5-year plan. And if the National Park Service gets back in touch with us, we'll have an update from her as well. That will be for November. And then just remind everybody the way we've been trying to structure ourselves is through units. So you can look at our newsletter, which Catherine suggested. It has the layout of the land, but we are trying to build this natural resources unit. And we already have a public health unit. They'll let you know when they meet. The chair of that unit is Linda Snyder, if you're interested in joining her and that unit. And then we have our redistricting. I want to remind everybody again that local redistricting is going on. We heard today on a phone call with the rest of the state that there is a legislative mandate that the county needs to have their redistricting done by November the 15th. So as it's been described by some of our other colleagues, it's going to be fast and furious. Therefore, on Monday evening, we'll have a quick special redistricting Zoom call, and President Oler will send out information on that.
All right. Thank you, Julie. Again, my top goal as your president these next 2 years is to get you involved, to make this truly a hands-on organization. And we have so many opportunities that you can take advantage of in making sure that we are empowering not just ourselves to vote. And that happens, I mean, being involved in these advocacy efforts, in the study, in the crafting of position statements, and then the advocacy that goes with that follows, is so important, not for ourselves as well as for the general public. And also because it's imperative that we defend democracy so that our votes count, that every person who is eligible to vote, and that those eligibility requirements are not onerous. We need to be advocating for our democracy every day. So I thank you for joining us. I hope you will take this opportunity as to read through the voter, see where you will fit in to this work of the League, and we will hopefully see some of your ideas in these meetings, see that you're actively engaged. So thank you so much, and we will see you next month.
Thank you again. It was really nice. I really
Marilyn,
enjoyed it.
Great.
Lovely
Thank you.
meeting you. Lovely hearing all the work that you've done, and thank you for that work.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
I'm
awesome.
going to join the natural resources unit. So
Perfect. That's going to be
I'm-
great. Thank you, Marilyn. I'll be communicating with you. Okay.
all right. Thanks so much.
All right. I'll
Bye-bye.
talk to you soon. Bye. Thank you, Annelle. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you
I'm gonna-
too.
I'm gonna go see if there's anything else broken in my house.
Oh, I just hated that happened today, but I understand. All right.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you. Bye-bye. Thanks, Annelle. Appreciate you for doing this.
Yes, thank you so much, Annelle.
My pleasure. I hope y'all did better on your